Hi, it's Sam here, and welcome back for edition 5 of the Q&As. So today I've got questions on where to get info on nutrition from, all natural contests, staying consistent with food and cravings, a bit on peptides, and then what to do after competing. So you're going to learn all of that today. Make sure you check out my Instagram, Physique Philosopher, same name as the YouTube, and take a look at some of the summaries there as well. And let's get started for today. So my first question for today was, where do you get nutrition info from? Well, for me, a variety of sources. Originally, it was just what the macronutrients on the food were and information online. And when I very first started, this was a long time ago, so for me, this has been 20 years. And the first thing I ever used was an app. So this is before the smartphone, so I used an app on the desktop called FitDay. And I would plan out all of my meals and my macros with this desktop application called FitDay. And then, that was a move up from spreadsheets and working it all out yourself. And then I sort of read books about bodybuilding and the nutrition chapters in those, focused on complete protein, that kind of thing. But then I really, really dived into it a few years after that. And then I was going to conferences on nutrition. So I did a bit of charity work with a group called Public Health Collaboration that are looking to cure a lot of incommunicable diseases through dietary interventions. And I learned a lot from some of the experts there. Then it was reading a lot of books. So I've read at least a dozen books on nutrition. A lot of it was in the low carb philosophy, so it's a lot of those. When it comes to the actual statistics and information itself, I mostly refer to McCanson-Widdowson's composition of foods, like the nutritionists and dietitians use, which I have done a book review on. So that's one of my main sources of info. The other best books that I recommend that were, mind-blowing for me and my understanding of nutrition were Good Calories, Bad Calories by Gary Taubes and The Obesity Epidemic by Dr. Zoe Harcum. So those are my top picks and where I've got my best information from. And then apart from that, it's been trial and error with different foods in my plans and working with helping people. So a variety of sources, basically conferences and books, but not any particular degree courses or anything like that in my case. Next question. What do you think of the PCA natural contests that they're offering in the 2024 season? Well, I think of it the same as I think of particular federations that offer the same kind of thing, where I think it's a great opportunity. I think it has its place. I think it's a stepping stone before you consider anything else, where you can really master food and training and do all of that. Obviously, it's a different sort of standard, and I've had experience in such things, and I'd just say the only caveat is that there will be people messing around with things. So I've seen in discussions other people before saying, "Oh well, I was in IFBB Pro, but I'm going to come back and compete natural, and now I'm just on TRT, and that's okay by the rules because you've got X many years of difference before you have to meet their criteria. So it's not a lifetime thing; it's 7 years in some cases. So I just think people playing around with that is hardly fair. It's sort of bringing an atom bomb to a conquer fight. If you're an IFBB pro and you still use things, but now it's TRT and it's sort of pay to play with a doctor involved. I think, and then there's people that know how to get around these things. So like it's never. They never have the kind of resources to enforce the rules and criteria that they're putting into those things. So you always get people that'll be messing around. So don't take it too seriously if you get absolutely floored like by people messing around with it. That's the only caveat that I would say if you're looking at those kind of things. So in the PCA, they're offering that, and there will undoubtedly be some silliness, and you just have to know what you're getting into before you do it. But I don't want to be all negative. It is a really good opportunity for people who want to master all of the fundamentals and see the best they can do for that on show day. And if it's what you're interested in, maybe talk to me. It's what I've got a lot of experience with. And best of luck with it if you decide to go with that. Third question leads on for that. What are the natural federations in the UK? Well, we have two bros like offer certain events that are that side of things, and now PCA is offering that as well. But there are federations that cater to just that theoretically. So you've got UK DFBA and BNBF are the main ones. So they are quite well established. I think they have a rule that it's 7 years since any tinkering about with anything else, and they are based on the WADA list, so you can download the WADA list off the WADA website and check that you're all good there. And that's their criteria. Then there's another one that's supposed to be a lifetime thing, not a 7-time thing, and they're called the NPA. But that's a little bit smaller. So the main two are UK DFBA and BNBF here in the UK. So have a look at the dates in the calendar, and maybe you can plan a good season around it for that sort of thing. Next question, how do you stay consistent with food? What about cravings with carbs and stuff? Well, I'd say overall consistency is having a plan where you've actually chosen in that meal plan foods that you like anyway. So there's no point picking something that you should know from day one you can't stick to. So it should be the requirements of the diet, and then you have the short lists of foods that you will and won't eat, and you only build the plan out of the foods that you will eat and will quite enjoy eating. Then it's easier to be consistent with it in the sense of you want to do it. Then on the practical side of consistency, you need to look at whether these meals in the plan lend themselves to a sensible and sustainable meal prep schedule. So some people like to do this for a week, some people like to do it 3 days at a time, some people like me like to do the food fresh every day. But whatever way you're doing it, you need to think about the cooking methods and how many different ingredients are going into these things, and which can be batch cooked for the day or 3 days or whatever it needs to be. You need to think it all through, or plan it through with whoever's helping you, to know that you've got the resources and the storage space and the time on those meal preps to make it work. So in my case, I can prep my entire food for the day in 10 minutes, the whole lot if need be. If I'm working from home, then it's kind of, I can do it meal by meal, and it only takes 5 minutes here and there. But you don't want to get tied up too much in variety and recipes and complicated stuff, because if the plan's based on something like that, it's hardest to stay consistent. It can completely fall apart. So that's the consistency side of stuff with food. If it's a kind of craving thing that's more akin to an addiction, like drinking or recreational drugs or gambling or compulsive online shopping or something like that, this kind of need for like sugars and carbs. I mean, people don't really get it for real foods. Like you never really hear of someone like binging on boiled eggs and they can't live without it and they crave it. When it comes to real food that actually satisfies you, the kind of need and cravings go away. Whereas when you feed a craving with these sorts of addictive behaviours, including these addictive foods, having it only makes it worse and makes you want even more of it an hour later and stuff like that. So your approach there has got to be more similar to the approach that you take with quitting smoking or dealing with alcoholism or something like that. That actually I would suggest that if you know that that's the sort of craving you're experiencing, and it's that sort of level, you should probably go cold turkey. Just stop. Just completely stop. So, if you are sugar and carb addicted, in the long run, it's going to be best to get over that as soon as possible and then structure back in what's realistic. So my recommendation would actually be just stop. And once you've kind of reset your palate and your health and your thought processes, then you can do a different meal plan that incorporates like some level of carbohydrate. But I'd still say always it's better to stay away from processed foods and high sugars. Just not good for you. So I know that's easier said than done. I would say that if that's where you're at, you're probably best to pick something else that you enjoy to kind of plug the gap, to kind of give you something else that's something that you can do immediately to feel better. So get a new hobby, like get a cat or a dog, or learn getting into new music, or make sure that you always call a friend when you're feeling particularly wound up, or you need to replace it with something else if that's an emotionally driven problem that's occurring for you. That's my thoughts on that sort of thing. And the next one is kind of a funny question, because this one rolled in on a Saturday night, and you'll see why this is quite funny in a minute. He said, hey bud, the PT141 I got, what is the recommended dose in an insulin pen, and how long before it takes effect? So probably for most of you watching, me saying PT141 doesn't mean anything, it's just gobbledygook. But I'll tell you what it is. It's a peptide or research chemical, also known as bremelanotide, PT141, and it's basically an early investigation substance which is meant to massively increase libido. So it's been tested on rodents, and when they've given it to rats or mice, they end up all gyrating and humping each other and everything like that. So it's sold as a research chemical, and then some people decide they're going to use it on themselves. So this question's rolled in on a Saturday night. Someone needs to know how to use PT141. Well, it's not to be used. It's an experimental thing, but I'm told that when people use it, it's a standard dose is 1 milligram. If it was trying it for the first time, it would be 0.5 milligram. If it was going very, very high and trying to go completely beast with it, it's 2 milligrams. This is what I'm told. So be careful. And it comes as a powder. You have to reconstitute it. So you put a milliliter of water into the powder and reconstitute it with a normal syringe, and then when you have the insulin pen, that will be 1 mil. Each tenth of that, so each marker that's a tenth of the way, is then going to be 1 milligram, because it comes in 10 milligrams of powder, if you can, figure that. So that's all pretty intuitive. So when I say water, that's bacteriostatic water, and that's what you reconstitute the powder with, and that's how the doses work. And how long it takes to take effect? About 45 minutes to an hour maximum, and that lasts for 6 to 8 or maybe even 10 hours. So there you go. Don't go overboard. Don't do it at all. But that's the information for your Saturday night there. Back to a serious question. Question 6. What should you do after competing for having a rest? I would say it's good to take some time off of training. I usually take a week after competing. I usually take a little bit of time to refocus on things that I've put onto the back seat while I concentrated on the very last few weeks of the contest prep. So it's maybe catching up with friends, family, some meals out and stuff, some other activities and social engagements. I'd say it's all very positive. I think it takes a little bit longer time to be worth going for all health checkups. I'd say that's more 5 to 6 weeks later, but straight afterwards, I'd just say re-engage with a few other things that have maybe been neglected or you enjoy in your life and you put on the side for a moment there. But I wouldn't say like completely bin everything off. You don't want to lose the positive habits that can be balanced, that you've built up in doing this whole contest prep. So I'd say maybe a week off the gym for a little rest on the body, 1 or 2 meals out. I wouldn't say go binging, I wouldn't say drop the diet plan. I'd basically say go back to what diet plan you were doing about halfway through the prep, and then add in any other meals that are going to be a social occasion on top of that. And that's a nice blend with a week off the gym, and then restructure and go from there, and then all of your checkups about a month after that. Hope that helps, and I look forward to any other questions you've got. If you've got questions you want in the next one, pop them in the comments here. Check out my other videos, check out the Instagram, @PhysiquePhilosopher, and have a good weekend. Cheers.